Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Bobur. Today in this session, we're gonna understand why I stopped using SQL for regular database management because we all know that some of the AI coding assistants like Cursor, Lovable, Windsor, GitHub Copilot or somehow redefining how as we are developers building applications you can nowadays go from just an idea to the interface in within 9 minutes just by chatting with AI. So in this session I want to just explore how the AI agents are becoming active collaborators and then especially in data management and then automating everything from schema design versioning and seeding your and testing your data. I will also see maybe show you the example of how I use it MCP servers for database management together with GitHub Copilot in my VS Code. We're going to build something cool with you. So let's get started. I'm, by the way, developer advocate at Gibson AI, also ex Microsoft MVP for Azure AI platform. So when you think about these fancy vibe coding tools, right? Even if all these fancy vibe coding tools, you need always to build a full stack apps, a solid backend. That means a real database like Postgres, or that might be MySQL, a relational database, non-relational database. Another means like you need a production grade database and you need to deal with database migration, schemas, ODMs, mapping the objects to relational databases and APIs, all of this stuff, what we are doing even before the AI introduced it. Unless you are treating your Excel sheets or Google Sheets like your backend database, which we have all done, I think, once in the past. So let's have a look. One of the some of the pain points after I talked to hundreds of developers to understand what are their pain points, and it doesn't matter which language they are using or framework they are using. Eventually, you will need a working database. Many developers want to launch new applications, building like MVPs, add features into existing product, but they always hitting friction when it comes to managing database. For example, myself, I realized that I was spending nearly 20% of my development time just updating my database schemas and keeping my models in sync across multiple database environments like development, staging, and prod. Here I just listed out some of the common problems like as a developers we are facing, especially with the last one is we're always worried about migrations and then afraid of breaking changes when we are pushing to production. So now let's see how AI tools solving the challenges we saw in the previous slide, and we can build application faster. AI actually is still not replacing us as software developers, but it's removing some boilerplate like tasks we were doing in during the development. You still make a decision about your schema or relationships in your database, but you still write the logic, business logic part, but you don't want to waste time repeating the same steps over and over again. Here, as you can see in this table, I highlighted some of the like challenges and then how the AI and AI agentic solutions helping to get rid of these issues. For example, one of the common problem is my data model keeps changing all the time. I test my ideas because when a schema evaluation happens, you need to somewhat want to generate, model files, especially in the object-oriented programming, like in Java, you need to map the database tables into model files always. This is a manual work, or when the database schema changes, you need to also create another version of your APIs. A lot of like best practice you need to apply because of this database schema change. So let me tell you an interesting story because I told you like I'm working at Gibson AI. At Gibson AI, all the databases are created by the AI agents this year, especially 30% of the database provisioned using our MCP servers. We had already seen, right? Previously, for example, I was helping the Neon Postgres, serverless Postgres database solution. They actually proved In 2025, 80% of their database provision on Neon actually were created by the AI agents rather than just by humans, right? Because as a human, if creating new database takes like 2 minutes, it's totally fine. I mean, we accept the fact that it's taking longer time. But for AI agents, your new database should be created just in milliseconds, I would say. So let me talk about a bit what we are building in Gibson. Gibson, like so you can imagine, like it's your AI-powered database engineer, lets you design, build, deploy, and scale production-ready some serverless databases using just prompts. Your English natural language, or you can speak in any language. It creates a database schemas and deploys into somewhere in serverless, so it can run in the cloud, or you can bring it to your cloud, depending on your choice, which means you can even update your existing database schemas. If you have existing database, you can just connect by chatting with AI, and Gibson AI can spin up like new database schema changes quickly, and you can run multiple database environments like for different uh, features. And this gives a lot of flexibility even for non-coders, right? For coders, obviously, as an engineer, we can use MCP servers nowadays. So let me now walk you through some of the examples until when I decided to. I can maybe partially use SQL. Now I can use the MCP server. And you will be also maybe and motivated a little bit like in current MCP technologies are solving. Let's take a look. Example number one. Uh, I used the AI agents over MCPs to design my database schema, and I was able to deploy the new database with online up to date CRUD APIs, which means you can create, read, update, and delete under just 1 minute. Let me show you this example. This is like a typical diagram, whatever. I use the VS Code together with GitHub Copilot Chat, and you can use the models like GPT-4 or maybe GPT-5, actually the newest one, which is very good in coding. The demo is showing you, for example, I asked just a prompt like in Copilot, create a database for travel agency. And Copilot immediately reads my prompt and calls the Gibson AI MCP server for database management and creating a new database project, as you can see. And then it magically generates everything. You can have even like a visual entity relationship diagram, and you can get a database endpoints to manage your data. You can insert, delete, and update just in less than 1 minute, which means you can just connect to these APIs to your backend application or even directly to your the front end. As a bonus, what I got is my database is online. I don't have to manage my infrastructure. So this was very smooth experience from the like creating database up to generating APIs. Now, example number two. Actually, it was happening recently. I needed to recreate my new database from old entity relationship diagram. I think it was in PNG format, instead of writing everything manually in SQL, because how would it happen in development in architecture phase, you need to define some diagram and then draw it and before you start the programming. So instead of writing everything, and meanwhile I tried something faster. It's the same with GitHub Copilot inside the VS Code. What I did, I was able to convert the same image I had to database. So it works surprisingly well. As you can see, I'm still prompting to create a new database. Just one prompt, create a database from this ER diagram, and then it does all the magic. And as you can see, the diagram and it has actually additional improvements by using the best practices. Now you have a fully working and hosted database. So uh, if you want to even change the existing database, you can always go to Studio, and then you can define your own SQLs manually, or even share your project with someone else. Of course, if your team members want to work on the same schema, you can collaborate each other. The example number three, I used another MCP, which is Neon Serverless Database MCP, to create a function apps on Azure that hosts REST APIs. This is, I think, the best example I have ever created. I was able to build everything from scratch. Like I'm saying, hey, create me Azure Functions app, and then that fetch the data from Neon database and returns the result, and connect this database into the APIs. And here we go. Actually, it is creating the database, fetching the connection string, and locating it to my local settings. And my Azure Functions is ready to serve the same database data. So there is no any manual query writing. Even I can insert some simple data and or connect to any sources, so I can ingest some real data information. Here, as you can see, its generation quite even in terms of speed, it's very fast. I was able to create this my first APIs using by chatting with Copilot. So the last example, which is also today's topic, I'm going to demonstrate. These three examples was just a short cards of what I achieved. But the best part of like today's demo is, think about now, I am updating my database schema as part of my development process. And often if I feel like it's complicated, it should be a bit of easy, right? If you have ever worked with tools like SQL, Alchemy, Alembic in Python, or Entity Framework in C Sharp, or Hibernate in Java, which is the old one, you probably know the drill. Right? You first update your model class in code, and then this framework generates migration files. Number two, and then finally you apply this change to your database. Number three, it is your job. It's not a terrible process. I'm not saying, but it's slow. You can easily mess up with the correct migration order. For example, I could never guarantee that migration works until someone run this migration file against a target database, and maybe inside a CI/CD pipeline, like in GitHub Actions. GitHub Action obviously fails, and they say, "Hey, Olympic migration was not correct. I need to update my model class again." Or new revision of the database wasn't successful. Right now, think about how we can automate these steps by doing reverse engineering. So what I mean is, I'm going to update database schema instead of updating my models. As I update my database schema by chatting with AI, under the hood, AI agents can update the model files themselves. And when I hit one more prompt to create the GitHub pull request, and it can generate the data model files, create a pull request for every single database change happening. This is like what I want to show you. To try out the simple demo, you can also do yourself before I change my screen and then I start like doing some coding, actually some prompting, because we're talking about prompt engineering. Feel free to do these two simple steps. Step number one, you can just clone simple database schema by scanning this QR code, or you can follow this link. It brings you to Gibson AI, and then you need to create an account. Everything's for free. You can just clone your database to have the same database schema for travel agency project we are building today with you guys. And next step is you can have a look. I had some simple source code for travel agency. I built using a React application, and we're gonna work with these two database schema, and we do connection with the source code on GitHub. So now let me quickly change my screen, and we can start the coding. Yeah, so this is like a simple application I'm going to build together with you. It's travel agency management system. The UI part pretty much is ready, which is connecting to the Gibson AI data API. I'm going to show you soon. But let me walk you through the first, like how this simple application works. It's basically you can add some destinations, create some bookings while users are going and traveling somewhere, and then you can see their reviews, what kind of reviews they are leaving. And so there are some like technology, what technology I used here. You can build yourself easily. And on a GitHub repository, you can find a code base. And it has some pages like destinations, users. I have some sample like for users. Then you can even add new users and so on and so forth. And now, if you remember step number one, I told you you need to go to like the cloning link, and after you clone the database, you should go to the Gibson uh, web page. Let me show you. This is my travel agency database. Uh, I created using the same clone link. When you clone, it clones the same database schema for travel agency with these tables like travel user, destination, and you can even see the diagram of simple diagram of this database. Like we have simply four tables and with travel users, right? And what is interesting is this database actually, after you clone, it creates a database schema, and you can deploy the database schema into multiple environments. Now, if we are working in the development, because we are doing some development, you can click and deploy, which brings you to this database schemas into your development branch. We call it sometimes branch or database environment. So it is done. Now, this database schema, I can connect to my front-end application using the data API. Which this is actually quite like magically works. Whenever you add new changes to your database schema, this API will be updated automatically. So in this case, I have these four tables, and then if you look at the travel user table, I have four fields, everything good, and I have endpoints. What I did is in my application, I just connected to this API using the API key. You can everyone has like gets one API key here, depending on like which database environment you are choosing. The API key obviously might change, but now we are connected to dev. I just copied the API keys, and now my database part is ready. So what we're gonna do next? Actually, we have everything's ready now. Development is going. Now we got a new feature request from the product manager. He's asking, hey, please, can you add also travel user their address? Because we need this information to improve the user experience. Okay, as a developer says, yes, we're going to add this. And the travel user, a new address field. It should be here, somewhere the address field. And also at the same time, we need to also make sure that here the address field is added when we are updating or adding new users, right? This is like the requirements for the future, near future. Now, uh, what you do usually, like you go to the backend app part of the or application or front end part of the application. This is like where the repository, the step number two comes. You can also clone the same repository, which is already connected to the database schema I shared with you. You just need your API key, and then here's some prerequisites. What you're going to do, the same link you can find on the repository. Start by cloning, and then you got your database. You just get your database API key, and we are good to start. And by implementing new feature. Now, next steps is happening everything in my VS Code. So we assume that I open the same project in my VS Code. As you can see, this is like a React and yes application, and it's actually up and running locally. When I showed it, it was running on local 3000 hosts. And there are some pages. Obviously, we're not gonna do left part. We're gonna use the right part by prompting with AI. So now, what I did next step, I connected the Gibson AI MCP server into the GitHub Copilot inside the VS Code. It's pretty much the same standard how when you're working with MCPs, you can create like VS Code folder and define your MCP JSON file, something like this. So in this case, I am using Gibson AI like a local MCP server. which means it requires you to install Gibson CLI. If you follow the GitHub repository, it's straightforward. You can just install CLI that allows the Gibson to connect to the database in the cloud. So you can chat with the database in the cloud using your local machine. Or there is also a remote MCP server. You can also connect remote MCP server if you prefer a remote one. In this case, I just defined my configuration to connect the Gibson AI MCP server using just a single step here. And if I open now my chat, I can even see all the MCP tools that Gibson has. There you go. Here, uh, as you can see, like there are some tools that can create a project, deploy, and you can query your databases using your natural languages, or you can submit new data modeling requests using the MCP server. So, which means all good. We are connected, and other MCP tools are also out there. Whatever MCP server you need, you can just combine it. And I choose in the chat, like I put an agent mode. You can choose also your models. We can test with GPT-4 to make things simple. But when I tested very complex coding, I am using usually Cloud 7.4. But today I tried GPT-5. Actually, it's working much cleaner. It's creating a very, very good quality codes. So let's start prompting. First thing, let's ask what are the projects I have in Gibson. What projects I have in Gibson AI? We can ask this question, and now it should call MCP tool get projects using Gibson AI MCP server. Here we go. So you can see I had a bunch of like the projects coming up, and I have just multiple Travel Legends database actually because I copied, I created, I played around. Actually, I need the first one. The cool thing is once you define it first time, and the MCP server creates locally .gibson AI file where it just puts the default project ID, which means you define which project you're working on currently so that it doesn't mess up with other projects you're working with. You can even ask the GPT, like the prompting, set the default project ID. Now I will prompt, now show me what the database schema in travel agency database. And these very simple prompts. Now we'll a bit complicate the prompts. So actually, it's calling. You see the tool from the production database. Now, by default, it's getting deployed schema from database, the production environment. But we need developer environment because before going to production, we can work in a separate, isolated database, right? Now, let's change the same. Like we got the same tables, like I showed you before. Let's say you now get dev database environment schema so that we can only work on a dev. Yeah, here you go. The command is changed. Now we can get dev and production. Now they are the same, like pretty much the same. There is no difference. And even in dev, we don't have in travel user the address field. As you can see, this is a travel user table, and we don't have address field. Now let's start to add address field. Now add new address field to travel user table. So when I hit enter, it should now start to add this new database address field. So let's see. Here we go. Database name, and we are sending the project ID. I'm just double checking, make sure that it is sending to the dev environment. Let's see. Okay. Ah, it's trying to migrate actually. Use a dev database environment uh, and add address field. to travel user table. Let's give it a try one more time. Up we go. Now, always is jumping me to the top. Okay. Dev environment. And so what is error? Is database configuration might be verified. Okay. Maybe use travel agency. It's still like mixing travel agency project. Can try one more time. Yeah, this is, yeah. Yes. See? Now we can get project details once more time. And okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now I think it's doing correct. Add, let's say, update dev environment by adding address field to travel user table. Hopefully, it's gonna work. Somehow, it's trying to do database migration, but we are actually asking for just the alternate table. See what kind? Oh, okay. Now, gotcha. Now, because I'm using multiple MCP servers, because the Neon MCP also servers out there, I need to switch off. It is understanding the same as a Gibson. So let's try again. That's why it's confusing all the time. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Connect. Now I can see maybe try to rerun again. User table in Gibson AI travel agency project. Model is, oh yeah, here we go. Now it's correct. Submitting data modeling request. Here we go. Now everything should be fine, and hopefully it should update the dev environment with the right data schema change. That's it. Now it's gonna run and submit the changes. As you can see, the prompt is correct. It's converted like address, add the address field, and yeah, everything's good. And dev environment. Here we go. Yeah, perfect. It has added new address field to the travel user table. We can validate if it's actually working and added correctly. I will come back to my database management solution, and I need to maybe the refresh to see the updates. There we go. Yep, here we go. Yeah, the address fields added, but now only we need to deploy, right? Database schema change it, but we need to deploy now uh, to make sure that database schema is in dev environment. Now deploy this change to dev environment. And then it should call another obviously tool to deploy to specific. As you can see, deploy project tool, and we are choosing database development inside tool. So uh, and after with deployment, database schema job is done successfully. And next step, what we're going to do is we do a little bit of creating the code, obviously, for adding the address field. Let me find, actually, inside the source projects, we have the users page, right? Into this user page, I need to add the same address field so that users now can add their address. I will say and now update a user page uh, by adding new address field. Let's see. GPT-4 is smart enough to understand like what we're gonna achieve now for the user page, and it should do necessary changes. Yep, it is applying some edits. Let's see what is the magic is going. Okay, okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it added the address field. It's good. Address field in user page. And then next, obviously, we need to add also into the model in my types. And it should be index file, yes. Oh, we go. Yeah, we added the address field. All good. Actually, I can see it in my terminal. The application is building successfully. Yes, here we go. And address field successfully added, and it's created a new form to adding new user and updating user. Let's test it. How it looks like right now in the front end side, I can see the address field there. Yeah, this is like what we achieved quickly. We updated database schema, we updated the front application, and we can now do QA testing. I can say, let's say, I'm in San Francisco, and so here we go. Yep, everything's working now. We implemented the new feature request. The next step is to create a PR so that my team members can review this PR. Now create a PR for these changes on GitHub. Actually, I'm not using the MCP, GitHub MCP, but you can also connect to the GitHub MCP official one. But I am installed the Git CLI, and now it's connected to the Git CLI. As you can see, it's just running Git commands. But I recommend also you can install the same GitHub MCP server, and it makes these things more easy. Okay, it's saying we would like me as it resolving. Oh, it looks like we had already branch uh, call another branch. Yeah. Oh, we can let him the copilot let him resolve the conflicts because previously I created the same branch with the same testing. That's like the conflicting. There you go. That should be fine. And right, yes, added a lot of the changes, and it's pushing. Okay, resolve it, and okay, it's now prompting you, explaining how to create a pull request. Or I think it's actually created a pull request. Let me revisit this. No, yeah, I can ask to create a new pull request again. Create the PR yourself. There you go. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Here you go. Now we can view even the PR created. I can come back to my application, and I can see the PR created with the new changes we did in address field. This is like the fancy enough, right? There are some conflict, of course, because of previously I did some things wrong when I was preparing demo. But usually, the thing is, it is automating the whole process of developing new features actually, and then we are not using the AI in the business logic at all. Just generating models, connecting database schemas, and it even like not less risky than generating a vibe coding like creating the full stack apps, but it is helping 100% and to simplifying our job. So this was kind of part of the main demo. You can also try it out. I would love to get your feedback, how you feel you guys like in this new development workflow using GitHub Copilot together with MCP servers. Now, to finalize, let me switch back to my slides. I have few slides left and we can finish the talk. So yeah, here you can find the links and what we achieved. That's the I'm proposing new workflow summary. What we did, we created the schema and database. We started developing feature A by adding new address field. Right. What we did, we created a branch, feature A branch, and Git. And Gibson AI creates a brand new database branch called new feature database. Actually we use it there, but you can create new database also. And we were able to experiment safely without affecting the main database. And we were able to chat with Gibson AI and Copilot over MCP to update the database branch schema. And Gibson AI what did generated model files with Copilot, and Copilot synced them with your branch and with your code base. And we finished the development by creating the pull request. And now the next step is number 8. We can even further automate this by adding the GitHub actions that validate the schema changes before merging it in against a real database. And the next level database, mean maybe production database, if everything works without any failure, especially Python guys, they know in Olympics there are a bunch of issues. So if you want to try out the same workflow, I created even a written format, how you can use GitHub Copilot with MCP Server. You just scan the QR code. You can find also the guide to repeat the similar experience and let me know how you feel, guys. And what makes this unique solution? Last time I think people asked me, compared to you are using, let's say, Cursor and chatting with AI and then bringing your SQL queries manually and putting in the chat without using MCP servers provided by the production grade database like Neon or Gibson. Here's the difference. Like, uh, first of all, it offers smart migration ordering, right? It understands all the dependencies and it applies the changes in the correct order, which means like creating tables before adding concentrators, connecting all the relationships automatically. And there's under the hood even like multiple agents are working. You don't see it. Actually, we are using MCP, but there 4 or 5 agents are working together to make sure that you got high quality database schema changes. And then actually it's validating against a real database. We are not validating like against like a manual or I mean the real database, right? And at the end we're able to see changes visually. We can monitor, we can optimize our queries, and we can achieve more with the help of like these serverless databases. So in the summary, I want to say is again, like AI is still not replacing us. They are helping us to reduce the job what we did in this demo, and you can build more smart agents nowadays, even using SQL MCP servers, and you don't have to write much SQL anymore. So congratulations. Thanks so much for your attention. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I would love to get your feedback. And if you have any questions, feel free to ping me drop. I will be more than happy. Thanks so much.